moving on to our next speaker, who is Nik, who's going to talk to us about building a data platform. So if everyone can just, well, building a data platform, planning behind building a data platform. So thank you. Yeah.
Splendid. I will move this around. I'm under strict instructions that I'm not allowed to swear. It's going to go well. It's going to go as well as you think it will. Cool. For those who don't know me, I'm Nik Walker, the head of data engineering at Co-op. For those who don't know what Co-op is, you lunatics, we're the nice little blue convenience store you see. We do lots of other cool stuff. I'm not here to sell you Co-op, believe it or not. I commute in GIFs. This was me on Sunday when I frantically figured out that I've actually got to do something off stage. So yeah, that's pretty much how my life goes to the point where I was finishing these slides on the way back from Manchester earlier. So I kind of want to start with something. I'm quite inspired by Graham's talk now because it's something I thought about for a little while. I've also probably got your name wrong, I'm so sorry. For those who, we'll start with size of a business. Who works in startups and scale-ups? Show of hands. Startups or scale-ups? You're a consultant, you don't count. Mid-sizers? Just you. You're just a mid-sizer. Right, the rest of you are enterprise then. Okay, who wants to have a guess at what data platforms are? In the scale-up worlds, what's that? Good answer, smart. There we go, failed, minute one, cool. Okay, whatever you can sell me, right, you're a consultant as well, great, 10 out of 10. Right, I was going down the, and I can't see my notes, which is brilliant. There we go, perfect. I was going to go down the route of trying to find out if people have different opinions about what a data platform is, because I've nerded out / spoken an awful lot about what a platform is, what it isn't. Is it a data warehouse? Is it a lake? Is it a lake house? All these kind of weird and wonderful things that you end up hearing directors and C-suiters talk about who haven't got a clue what they're talking about, which is always fun. So I've also been rummaging for the past 6 months, probably, talking about and seeing people on Reddit, on Stack Overflow, if it's still alive, because ChatGPT's killed it, basically. Various other places about, we're building a data platform. Cool, and no one cares. Absolutely no one cares because you're building a new data platform. So the whole reason I'm kind of starting to talk now is there's not a lot of thinking that goes into building a data platform now. It is, you can throw it at the wall and it will stick somewhere down the line. And I want people to start thinking about a little bit what we do. I joined Co-op about a year ago. There's been a pre-existing team. There's at least one of my engineers in the room, so I have to be really careful what I say because she'll throw things at me. So where we're going with it, like, you have to spend some time if you're coming into an organization and you go, right, we're going to build some cool things. We're going to do Databricks, we're going to do Snowflake, we're going to do everything all at once because we can and it's really cool. You have to spend some time figuring out, knowing what exists right now. First 3 months of my life was trying to figure out and unpick 8 years worth of, not carnage, but like businesses frantically panicking / COVID madness. And every single one of you has probably been subjected to that at some point. Figuring out what the business actually is doing. Then trying to figure out, okay, what are you trying to achieve? You want to do the cool stuff. You guys are engineers. Most of you are engineers. Some of you are analytics engineers, as I found out. They have imposters in the room. So, yes, I'm staring at you. So you have to kind of figure out what you're trying to achieve with that. Because when you go to the organization, and my CTIO is already playing 16D chess with me whenever I try and talk to him about anything, he'll ask those two questions. If I try and get anything new through the front door, I don't care. The thing that already exists gives me that. What are you going to do? And what will you deliver by when? Great answer to that is, that's fine. Co-op's got this great growth ambition, and if you don't buy into this thing, the thing that currently exists is going to die. Which is a great thing, because, by the way, it'll cost you £400 million every couple of months, because it can't be restood up, because it's ancient. Genuinely, there's probably some of you that this thing has existed for before you were born. It's awesome. Because then you'll start talking to, and you'll get sign off from your business, and they'll say, great, sounds good, go spend loads of money. They won't say that. Wish they did. It's then sitting there going, talking to your techies, talking to your architects, and sitting there and figuring out where you sit in the organization, what data is going to go in there, how you support the platform, all that good stuff. And engineers, you'll try and build everything because it's grand. You need architects, enterprise architects to help out with that. And each of those is fairly important. When you're a senior leader, you kind of have to consider the business stuff. Not always great fun, but hey, that's life. There's also some hilarious irony to your particular talk now. Lots of people taking photos of our slides and duplicating. I will happily make all these free to everyone. So a little bit of random history. I'll take you kind of through a journey of me desperately trying to figure out what's going on with the various bits and bobs. At Co-op, the teams existed for 9-ish years. There's a data platform that was stood up about that. There is also a very small, mostly big data warehouse that was set up in 1997. And the guy who made it is still there. And he is one of my peers. And I am building him a big red button when I get to switch it all off that he can press it, it switches it off, and he can have a cry. So I inherit a team. There's a good 25, 26 of us now. They are a bunch of kick-ass people. I can get away with that when it's not swearing. We're Azure Databricks. We're all that kind of good stuff. Spent a lot of time analyzing what we currently had, what I just told you, analyzing the business strategy. Co-op is going through this big, we're going to do everything all at once, retail, madness. It's all really good, and it's actually really, really intense whenever you talk to the board about it. They were talking about it on the way home. I was frantically running to the train whilst holding a laptop with my headset on, trying to listen to all the updates, which was great fun. Not something you should do, running through Manchester, quite scary. You have to speak to a lot of heads off. You have to get buy-in. Engineers will never, ever get buy-in. It's a pain in the backside trying to explain to people that you have to get buy-in from, not just techies, but business people. I spent a lot of time getting introduced to various people who, if they go, data, Excel good, data good. No, Excel bad, data good. Like, not the same thing. But it's always fun. You have to spend a lot of time figuring out what it is you want to build. You have to find out the gaps. You have to blah, 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 blah. You have to redesign the platform, communicate a plan to people. It's all that fun stuff that engineers don't really care about very much. When you step into senior leadership, it sometimes feels like many of us are unprepared to have that. You can sell a lot of cool things. For those of you who are consultants, yes, feel the scorn. You can figure out how to integrate a lot of what you want to sell into projects and programs that are already going on. And I am definitely trying not to list everything out, because the joy of being neurodiverse is that's the way my brain communicates. I'm trying not to give you the history of the world. I still fail at that in a big way. So when you're having these conversations, when you're having a conversation with a CTIO, a CDO, sometimes they'll help, sometimes they won't. Anyone who's got a C in front of their name, that's not me criticizing or swearing, that generally you have to come away with kind of a reason to be, which is quite philosophical because you've touched on philosophy, so thank you for opening that particular door. So what are you trying to achieve? By when? That's the biggie you'll always be asked, and many of you will all understand it when you've got little buckets that you're doing. Grand. Where are you going to sit in the organization? Do you sit under the CTIO? Do you sit under a CDO? Do you sit in IT? Do you... all that good stuff. Constant arguments, constant bickering. Feel free to go and look at senior leaders on LinkedIn. They are always bickering about what the CDO is. I don't care. Like, as long as I've got someone who will actually give me executive sponsorship to do the cool things that I want to do. Couldn't care if I'm reporting into a COO. Couldn't care if I was reporting to one of you guys, as long as you can sit there and sell the stuff to the board. You need to have a purpose behind the team and the platform. The engineer who's here, who's from my team, knows that I waffle on about this all the time. Mission, purpose, this kind of stuff. If I don't, tell me, I will more. No, you can't use that against me in the next team meeting. So mission for like Co-op's team is we're a single place for all of Co-op's analytical data. The way that people can use it is high quality, it's well governed. It's nice. Scope is all of Co-op. Co-op is a bloody big organization. It is not just retail. We've got funeral care, we've got insurance, we've got things left over from the bank that everyone seems to recognize us with that's not been asked for about 10 years now. There's loads we've got schools, which is really weird, but it's a thing. But we've got all that data floating around. It's a big old organization, but think then about the problems and context you've got to have. You're going to be storing data that is really, really, really sensitive, not just, that's a customer. You've got some real sensitive stuff floating around. And you have to be able to explain it to a 5-year-old, because every single different stakeholder, every single different person, every single other data person is still going to be wanted to explain to, and not everyone understands nerd. Like, that's generally a thing. Promise I will talk about data platforms in a bit. I frantically, sporadically put these out. So good. So how have I done it? I have spent an inordinate amount of time with architects, enterprise architects, C-suite, governors, all these people trying to do things. And like, look, there's frameworks that are already out there. You have to decide on a bit of a framework about you're going to approach. I think I did something wrong. I didn't. I missed a slide. 10 out of 10. Nick on the train earlier. The way we've done things is just medallion architecture works for us. We are Azure Databricks house. I'm not a fan of Azure, but that's life. You have to deal with that in the enterprise, and you have to kind of go with it. You can't just get everything you want. Not yet. Everyone kind of knows what platforms look like, and architecture is one of the best things in the entire world because you can put that on a page and you've not put a single line of code down. And that's about the technicality that a C-suite is ever going to give a crap about. They won't give a crap about anything else. They'll see lines going in. Those systems normally say the various systems of co-op, and I'm not going to tell you what they are because that's good. So I'm taking photos. I will make the slides available. The various bits and bobs, the bronze, the silver, the gold, that has been done to death in various different architectures for 45 years. Like, it's been a conform layer for God knows how long. It's not a big deal. All the different bits is now actually where you come in. So, yes, fine. So the frameworks you've kind of got, big data happened, what, 15 years ago? Everyone went mad, let's do cool things. And we had Cloudera and Hadoop, which I'm glad died in fire. And then you had everyone trying to build everything. And you had the advent of the data engineer, what, 10 years ago, when we give ourselves a cool title rather than data warehouse guy. Like, and it's a thing. So the initial conversations that I've started to have with people are co-ops and Azure House. It loves it. You will work in organizations, unless you're a consultant, you will work in an organization that has a cloud strategy already. You need to align with that. You don't get a choice usually. You will be using Azure, you will be using AWS. God help you if you're using GCP because it's awful and it's expensive. And you'll be doing that. You've got the big platform fight that every engineer goes into. Is Snowflake the best? Is Databricks the best? Is BigQuery the best? It's not. Is Redshift the best? Whatever it is, I don't care. Like, you use the tool that's best for the job you're trying to achieve. If you're building a data warehouse, you might use something like Snowflake. If you're using a platform that's going to be based on ML, you might be looking more at Databricks, something that requires more customization. What frameworks you're going to use? Is it Medallion? Is it Delta? Is it Lambda? Use something sensible. The likelihood of you changing the world and how data is processed is very minimal. It's not a criticism of you as skills. There are way friggin' smarter people who are wired up to machines and like on God knows how many drugs in Silicon Valley who will probably do it for you. So just admit it, it's fine. Whilst you're going through this, you'll have to justify the old question of build versus buy. For those of you in startups, you will probably buy more, buy bits of your infrastructure. You'll buy the Fivetrans, the stitch datas, all that kind of good stuff. You'll buy things that accelerate you really, really quickly. And then you have to start considering. I wrote lots of notes to this slide and they're like really, really small now. So if I sit there like this, I'm not that old. You've got all the different bits about how you have to offset the balance. And also you kind of have to go through every bit of your platform and justify the build versus buy. If you're in an enterprise, you'll be building things. You've probably got great engineers. They'll help you build, they'll do stuff. But these are the things you should start considering for that. Buying it is great. I have used it. He's had enough. Buying it is great. I'm not that bad. That's right. Yeah, you. I've used one of the big ingestion pipelines, one of the Fivetrans, the stitch datas in an enterprise organization, and it rapidly would cost us 7 figures every single year. And everyone went, but it's great. It does everything really, really well. So I set one of my lead engineers on it with a senior underneath him, and he then promptly got rid of it about 3 months later and went, we've done it. Like, all the Google Analytics data now just drops out and comes over here and does that. I wish I could have seen that £1.5 million. That would have been nice. I could have had 2 more teams. Gits. And that will what will happen. But all these things, when you build versus buy, you have to consider. If you're in a startup, you've got very small data. It will cost you very little. When it scales up quickly, it will get really expensive. You have to look out for vendor locking. You have to be thinking about talent. Who builds a data warehouse with the data vault? Hands up. Yeah, data vault's great until there's 2 of you in a room that can bloody well model it. It's expensive. Don't bloody do it. It is painful. A lot of my engineers have used it. They've been traumatized by it. It requires so much knowledge. It requires books 7 times as thick as that, not the Wall-E thing, the book barbarians. It requires so much thought and planning and process, and like Asda are doing it right now. They're doing great. Sorry if any of you are Asda, just one at the minute. But these are all the things you have to consider. You have to think about the talent that's floating around. Kimball's been around for 40 years. God, I wonder why that is. Integration, maintenance, all these things. When you've got SRE teams, SOE teams in like big organizations, you have this backing. You can do it. You can do the build. If you ain't got that, sometimes buying it is easier. You will have to walk people through what each of your segments mean. You will have to justify to your peers data quality, data governance, who are lovely individuals. They're the accountants of the data world, and actually I love them because they keep me out of trouble. Most of the time, they also get in my way. You have to be talking about things. You have to be talking about data contracts. You have to be explaining what the hell that actually means to business stakeholders, because they won't care. They will sit there and go, yeah, well, it's in your platform now. It's your problem, isn't it? You're the owner. I'm custodian, and I've got a really cool title. It's his problem, but it's not. It's their problem. You have to have those slap fights. You have to get owners who know what the hell they're talking about. And is it the tech owner? Is it the dude who uses it? Is it the last in account to it? You end up in those. You have to go through and you have to figure out how you're going to justify the security of various layers. What's the various purpose of the layers? This is where it gets nice and controversial for engineers. The Parquet versus Delta versus Iceberg argument that Big Data London can absolutely do one on. I got asked 3 times about it. I still don't care. Like, but no one will give it. Welcome back. You've missed loads. None of this is going to make any sense now. The argument of Delta versus Iceberg versus Parquet. They're all kind of the same thing. The business will see that. They will not care. It's a decision you have to make around the technicality. What are you trying to achieve? What are you going to do? How does retention fit into that? How does PII get identified in that? What quality rules can you put in your nice bronze shiny layer? We chose Delta. I have to look at that slightly differently now because Databricks are a pain in the like buying things. They're lovely, I promise. What does it need to do? What works for the organization? You might sit there and think the organization, I've just said the organization doesn't care. 99.99% of it doesn't. You will, your data folks will, and I guarantee the technical nerds will. The software engineers who are floating around, all that kind of good stuff, they will care because they'll want to know why and what it can do for them. You end up with a bus on the front of your platform, they're going to want to know what that system does. Do a thing. Thank you. Silverlayer, this is where I was whinging about Vault. What decision do you make? They're the big 3. There are other ones. I've never seen them implemented properly. You have to sit there and have a conversation about these things. You have to sit down and actually analyze if it's possible to build a data vault really quickly. It's not. You have to know how PII flows into your system. Like I said, we've got schools. You have to figure out how you obfuscate. Is it security keyed? Is it all that kind of technicality? Is it, if you're modeling across the organization, do you have various super users floating around who might want to see this layer? Has everything got to pass through there? Who models what and where? That's a really good one. Those of you who don't have architects, is a good thing. Your gold layer, we move into the world of Kimball. Has anybody implemented a gold layer or a conform layer or a presentation layer that's not Kimball? What did you do? So you didn't do it. Have some ownership, consultant, come on. What did they use? Just out of curiosity. Just exposed straight to the customer, to the end, just exposed straight to the end user. Kind of. Never mind. Not a problem. I'm going to make you feel bad now. Sorry. I do that naturally. The thought is make it easy for the customer. You have to make it easy for the customer, but you have to continually figure out and reiterate the same things because you're going to need to be able to explain it to a 5-year-old or me at some point when someone says something smart. Who's good at data modeling? Just you. Excellent. A lot of people, the historic way that data engineers have now come up through the track, you're all Python dweebs. That's fine. Data modeling is a big thing, and this goes back to what your platform's for. Some of you will sit there and go, it's going to be a streaming bus. It's going to sit there and it's going to push all your data out. It's going to do all the kick-ass stuff. Awesome. For me, it's a big data warehouse because Co-op is bad at its data. Big organizations are. Co-op's brilliant at its data in pockets. Big organizations are all like that. And we've like really rapidly scaled up literacy, and it's awesome. But you're still only going to have subject matter experts who are really good at that. And you're going to have modelers sitting in with you who are going to be telling you how to build that to make it better for them. Always back to what works for the organization and how literate everything can be. I'm aware there's a camera and I have to like not wander over there. So if we keep looking down, that's what it is. I'm not going to fall over anything. I'm not allowed to show you our security model. I got a slap on the wrist for having that in my slides the other day. So you have to sit down and you have to think about security. It is the most boring, tedious conversations you will ever have, but it is the one that will save your in a big way. Not just because you're obfuscating things or PII. Things like competition law come up. You thought GDPR was bad. Like, if anyone deals with competition law, it is a nightmare. It is how pricing fits into certain things. And no one other than you can see it. So why do you keep it in your platform? Because you might need to provision it to small franchises. Hint, hint, wink, wink of what we do sometimes. You have to be so careful with this. You cannot do it alone. In big letters, I wrote this on the way down because it annoyed me. Data governance, central governance, InfoSec will need to look at your role-based access control, your attribute-based access control, how SSO works. Some of this you will understand. Some of this you'll be going, I know all this stuff, but I need to reiterate just how damn important that can be. Do a thing. It's haggy. And reviewing it. Your peers are your friends. When you step into senior leadership and you've got the nice title of head of or principal or lead or whatever it is, you have to consider everybody else around you. You guys will have peers. You'll have governance and quality. We had a little group when we were going through this. Every week we'd meet. Where are we? What are we doing? What are we doing? How are we designing it? Is it the right thing? Is it the wrong thing? But not everyone's opinion is equal. Techies can talk about the tech things. When we're talking about role-based access control, the roles, what are you doing? How are you setting that up? Data governance's voice was the loudest in the room, despite the fact that our data governance lead is very quiet, very northern, very quiet. It's the most weird juxtaposition of people I've met in a long time. But it's wonderful to have such a legal nerd doing data governance who can tell you how all that fits together. And they balance off quite nicely. And same in reverse. We end up gobbing off about lots and lots of things. Yes, that is a screen full of boxes. You end up gobbing off about a lot of things that are really important for you. It's a balance, and that's why the director was in there, because he had somehow herded these cats to build and design this design and build this platform. Again, there are bits that I can't show you, but delivering them by when. The Gantt chart is the worst thing ever created. I'm not joking, it annoys me. It will be delivered by this date exactly. Awful. Just sets hairs running, not fun. I like to do some weird, he's taking photos now as well, it's not even great. These are gonna be high def ones, the amount of redundancy we've got, it's crazy. Sorry. What I do is, it's a weird derivation, that word, of bus matrix, get your top line, what are your domains, what are your big business processes, bang some colors on it, tell me the quarters, get that in front of your C-suite, you'd be quids in. If not, blame someone else, blame a consultant, don't blame me. But it works really well to sell because most people will sit there and go, if you've got to put a Gantt chart up in front of them, they're gonna go, by this Santa, you will be doing exactly that. And if it's not by that Santa, you can friggin' know about it. Whereas if you're sitting there saying, month 2 of Q2, they'll probably go, grand, that's awesome, get on with it. And you give yourself a bit of leeway, the old under promise, over deliver thing. It works for a reason. That's why consultants make lots of money. I'm quite biased. And the people you're gonna need for this, the engineer in the room is going, we don't have that many engineers. We will do soon. This is vaguely what an engineering team looks like for me. About right. We've got delivery people, we've got product people, BA, it's an agile team. These people each know what their job is, what it is to help build this new platform. The architect sits at the top. There's me sitting there swanning around in tweed going, I'm really good at this most of the time. You've got my engineering leads in there who are unbelievably talented. We're each with like domain experience that is just fantastic. I've got senior engineers who've been there forever and a day, data ops guys. Each of these people are really, really important, and you will need to justify to the business, not necessarily their existence, but if you want new ones, tell them what value it is that they add. Data ops being able to turn around and say, these pipelines keep breaking, these pipelines keep breaking, these pipelines keep breaking. They don't care. These pipelines keep breaking, and it costs us £47,000 every day that pipeline breaks. Whoa. Data ops guys will help you with that. Trust me. ML ops guys to make sure the artificial intelligence doesn't fall over. Making sure that delivery happens. Your product guys who are wandering around to the business and doing that weird small talk thing that they're good at. All right, chill out. Not that bad. But they're really, really important. I've got a weird man and wife team. My plat ops guy is the husband, and my FinOps gal is the wife, and they work really well together. And FinOps is easy. FinOps is really, really easy. FinOps, fixing things when FinOps goes wrong is not easy. Make sure you're getting out there in front of the business and showing how much the stuff you do costs, because they'll want to know. And if you hide that, they'll go rummaging, and they won't ask you directly. They'll go to an analytics guy, or they'll go to a BI guy, and they'll ask. And they'll build a little case, and then they'll confront you with it, and it'll come straight out on a Friday afternoon that you've got to do loads of work over the weekend, and you will hate life. We break it down. We've got everything in a Terraform. Various domain subgroups are getting built. Figure out what team's using it, or if it's ELT. I can tell you exactly, down to the T, because we've got a funeral care business, this is always fun, the logistics of funeral care and how much that compute costs us. It's very, very weird of a sentence to have in a serious conversation. And then your ROI is the one that, why is it big? Because it's never you who actually sees it. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you sit there and you hear, we've saved 40 million because of your processes. Rad. Other times you'll find analytics guys turning around in big business and turning around and going, this is working real well because you've automated a process or you've done certain things. Many of you who've seen me on LinkedIn occasionally will see me gobbing off about AI not actually contributing that much. I always believe that a good data warehouse and a good model will help everyone, and you'll increase productivity that way, where AI just focuses on one small area. That's what the kind of thing you'll hear about. All of this fits into a data strategy. Small firms, you're probably not going to have one. Big firms, you are going to have one. Please pay attention to it. People spend a lot of time trying to pay attention to it, but often we don't review it. But you're going to need to know all of this stuff when you're trying to sell a data platform. If you're the head of data engineering, you're the head of architecture, you're the one going to get consulted by the CDO or the data director or whatever ridiculous title we give ourselves, the executive vice president of various bits of data that we like to do. You're going to find out really quickly that the tech, people, and process is everything that you need in there. Like, this stuff was pretty much perfected 12 years ago. And we still insist on having quacks stand up at Big Data London and tell us that they've got a new way of doing it. It's the same thing we did 15 years ago. Like, high five. High five. I assumed as much. It's fine, we'll get to the memes. Behold, more memes. There you go. You are engineers. I think you're awesome. Like, there's a reason I moved from. I wasn't always an engineer. I was a BI guy all those years ago and an architect. I'm closer to an architect than an engineer most of the time, but that'll do nicely. Don't do this alone. If you're going for the platform thing and you're in your first senior leadership role, please, please, please don't do it alone. Like, the reason Homer is up there, that is the episode where he deep fat fried his shirt and Marge said, I didn't say you shouldn't. I didn't say you couldn't. I said you shouldn't. Stop taking photos of Homer. It's literally on Google. Keep going back to your big five. Why do you want to build? Why do you need to build the platform? What are you going to deliver? How do you want to go about it? When will you deliver? Who will you need to get into place to make all this happen? That's a great one because that costs lots of money. People are expensive. And that is the end of me lecturing laboriously towards you. Yes, there's Captain Holt gifts now. You applaud. Off. Ah. I broke it.
Questions?
None from the analytics guys.
No? Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the talk. Yeah, two questions. So as a data platform, so how you talk about ROI is very good to really measure the cost, but how you measure the values of your data platform team, you know, so what kind of metrics you use? Because, okay, the other data engineering team that delivers some data, That's good, but you're a data platform team. In this case, how you measure your values?
How do we measure our value?
Yeah, as a data platform team.
We get direct feedback. I get explicit feedback from via the projects that we do stuff on. So we've done some really kick-ass. Is anybody a member of Co-op here? God damn, sign up, you barbarians. Sign up. In the app, there's this really cool bit. It's a short story at this point, but it's better. You click on it, it's missions, it's all this good stuff. We've got stuff in there that our data platform directly contributes with some cool data science on top, and we know how much money it brings in. That's how I can monitor it. How I can monitor it is literally by explicit feedback, either through, I can see how much money something is generating that we've helped build, design, whatever it happens to be, or I've sat down with the analytics team and said, what have we delivered against? And seeing them be able to get that out of there. You don't always get the explicit feedback. If you're not getting the explicit feedback or you've not sat down with the project, you're not monitoring it properly because you're not focused on the right things. You need to focus on the right things for the business, what they're trying to achieve. Analytics guys and BI guys will probably be able to tell you that. And that's the easiest way of doing it. My opinion. Lots of other people have different ones, but that's my opinion. That's what I use. Hang on. Dudders has got a...
Thank you for the talk. Thank you for both talks. We've had a lot this evening about, you've talked about fragmented data from the evolution of the co-op. You talked a bit about the data retention and getting rid of what you don't need. At risk of showing my age, I still remember going to my local co-op with my little card and collecting the stamps.
Yeah.
And it did just make me wonder, what considerations have you got for the data that you don't have that you might need? Because we haven't really touched on that yet this evening.
We don't have, but we might need. We've picked up a lot about what the growth prospects are for it. There's some historic stuff we've got floating around. There's a ton of data that's in this old retail data platform from 1997. Genuinely, there's so much boxes in a warehouse that there's one dude who knows where it all is. Genuinely, he's wonderful. And like, you sit there and go, where's this? And he knows the exact table. Terrifying. I don't know any other organization. Yeah, it's terrifying. And like, he's done and he's over it in a big way. When it comes to that, it's actually, we kind of do have to rely on everybody else. We're not the experts. Data engineers are awesome. We're tech experts. We're not always data experts. The data comes from the business. It comes from an SME. It comes from whatever it is. You better be getting my good side. It better be. It's about, like, the subject matter experts are going to tell you exactly what data they need. You're the ones who then have to extrapolate on that about what else do we need? How else do we fit it in? They're the ones who'll focus you on the right places. For unknown data, that's probably as close as you're going to get for it. You can't put everything into a platform because it goes to the swamp and all that good stuff.
One more question, and then we'll move on to the prize giving.
Okay, so it leads on to what you were just saying. So you've got all these different areas of the business. You've got the funeral, you've got the shops, you've got whatever. So I would take the platform to be the common technology stack and processes that exist across the organization. But then you're going to have different parts of the business wanting to build stuff on top of that and do their own analysis. So organizationally, do you consider that part of your job to do that for other parts of the businesses, or do you supply the platform and let them do whatever they want on your platform?
Both, in a weird way. We have BI. We've kind of prioritized the BI guys to be adding a lot of value by monitoring and doing all the kind of BI stuff. Analytics wise, they'll help us with that. The folks who've got access to the data at the moment, data literacy is a bit low over co-op, so not actually that many people in there. The plan is less about letting people build stuff and letting them interact with things. We use Databricks, we use Genie AI for this. I was saying to someone earlier, one of you lovely individuals, I firmly believe that the future is not necessarily dashboards, but natural language processing to be able to access data. It is the gap that existed that people have been screaming for the longest time and not realized they have been. I don't want to go to a BI guy and say, hey, Jim, fix that for me. And 2 weeks later, I get a report that I no longer care about, or an analytics guy who might tell me something right. I want to be able to get in front of it and ask the data itself. Things like Databricks Gene's catalog, Genie AI. I'm not sponsored by Databricks, I promise. Like, that helps out. And I think that is the future of it. And that's the direction we're trying to go for it. It's a bit more expensive, but actually it's better in the long run. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Nick. I think that's it.